Discover the incredible moment a disabled Marine inspired SEALs to make a life-changing decision. Jake Thompson stood on the sidewalk of his childhood home in Fairview, Ohio, the scent of freshly cut grass wrapping around him like the embrace of an old friend. Children's laughter danced in the air, mingling with the cicadas' song. The neighborhood remained untouched by the chaos of the world, oblivious to the shadows pulling at Jake's heart. Once a proud Marine, he had swaggered into battle zones with dreams of valor and courage, but an explosive device had reshaped those dreams into quiet resilience. His legs bore the marks of a soldier, a daily reminder of sacrifice, and yet here he was, attempting to reclaim a sense of normalcy amidst whispers and sideways glances. Each morning, Jake transformed himself into a beacon, teaching kids how to ride bikes, instilling in them the spirit of perseverance he learned the hard way. Just last week, he watched a timid boy wobble clumsily, nearly hitting the curb. But with a steady hand and a gentle voice, Jake coaxed him back on course. "You got this, buddy. Just keep pedaling." Seeing the boy's smile grow as he finally rode free captured the essence of victory for Jake, far more than any medal he earned overseas. But such moments were often clouded by societal prejudice and endless struggle to prove he was still a hero. Across town, a group of elite Navy SEALs faced their own battles, weighed down by expectations of invincibility. This year, they were set to showcase their skills during the annual Unity Day celebration, an event to honor heroes in their own right. But tension simmered among the SEALs as pressure mounted to display unshakable strength and grit. Watching Jake from afar, they couldn't shake their misconceptions. Underneath their armor, they struggled to define what made true valor. As the sun dipped lower, casting golden hues over the park, Jake volunteered in earnest, guiding children through resilience exercises. He was a bridge, connecting their fears to triumphs. And then it happened, the moment that would ignite change. The SEALs prepared their stunts, drawing a crowd of mesmerized faces. But as they launched into flips and power moves, a child, enthralled by the spectacle, stumbled into the chaos. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake's instincts kicked in as he leaped into action. Fear paralyzed the SEALs, caught between their mission and a growing realization. They watched as Jake, once a warrior with a steadfast heart, dove to shield the child from harm, his evident fragility transformed into unmatched resolve. In that split second, hearts raced, emotions boiled, and the definition of strength twisted into something far deeper. With Jake's bravery unfolding, silence settled over the onlookers. Eyes widened, breaths held. This was true heroism. The SEALs, confronted with their own battles of perception, faced a choice: would their bias stand tall, or would they learn to redefine courage? As Jake pulled the child to safety, something fundamental shifted. The community held its breath, wrestling with questions of honor and pride, and as the dust began to settle, could these warriors of the sea transform their judgment into action? Would they step up for Jake, a veteran who had given so much, or would their past convictions drown the future? While uncertainty loomed, the heart of Fairview thumped with unity, leaving everyone waiting for the resolution of this heartbreaking yet beautiful tale. The crowd erupted into cheers after the dust settled, their applause vibrant and electric. Parents hugged their children a little tighter, and children laughed with a new understanding of bravery. Jake stood, breathless, the weight of the moment resting heavy on his chest but filled with a warmth he hadn't felt in ages. He looked down at the little boy, still clutching his bike, who seemed to have found not just safety, but empowerment in Jake's action. While onlookers showered Jake with gratitude, the SEALs lingered at the perimeter, their faces a mix of confusion and awe. The world had always taught them that strength was defined by physical prowess and dominance. But Jake's selfless act of courage had reframed everything they believed. They glanced at each other, silent conversations unfolding in shared looks. "Did you see that?" one of the seals whispered, his voice barely cutting through the lingering cheers. It was Novak, a gruff soldier with a heart of gold. "That right there, that's strength." Another member, Rios, nodded, his eyes still trained on Jake. "And we thought we had it all figured out." A hum of realization began to settle amongst them. They were warriors, yes, but true valor came in countless forms, sometimes wrapped in fragility, yet shining bright in bravery. For them, it was a humbling moment, one that challenged their perceptions and echoed deeper truths about heroism. Without thinking, Novak stepped forward. He felt an unexplainable pull toward Jake, a desire to connect. "Hey, man," he called out, his voice breaking through the noise. "What you did back there was incredible." Jake turned, surprised more by the sincerity in Novak's tone than the praise itself. He had grown accustomed to being viewed with pity, not admiration. "Just doing what any decent person would," he responded, the warmth in his chest blooming into something stronger. "What if we worked together?" Novak continued, his mind racing with ideas. "You know, with the kids. We could do something special for the Unity Day next year, a way to show real courage, the kind that comes from overcoming, not just strength." Jake opened his mouth to speak, but the weight of those words struck him hard. He felt a mix of hope and apprehension. Working with elite soldiers? It was a world he had been estranged from since the day everything changed. But with a fire kindling in his spirit, he nodded slowly. "I'd like that." The air buzzed with new possibilities. The seals began to gather around, curiosity piqued, eager to learn from Jake's experiences. They, too, were ready to confront their assumptions and redefine their understanding of what it meant to be a hero. Across the park, the kind of laughter that only childhood can bring washed over them, forging unspoken bonds in the air. Children happily embraced their fearlessness, wobbling futures encapsulated in moments of triumph, but as sunset approached and the warm glow of day turned to uncertainty, a haunting question lingered. Would the reluctant warriors find the courage needed to step beyond their comfort zones? And as Jake reveled in this burgeoning connection, he couldn't shake the thought that the real test was yet to come. Would they be able to face the challenges ahead, not just as soldiers but as allies? Unity Day was just a year away, but was there enough time to forge a new path together? The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and gold, casting long shadows across the park. The air was alive with a mix of nostalgia and hope. Jake felt the weight of the seals' gazes on him, an unfamiliar but welcome attention. He could sense their curiosity, almost like a push toward a new chapter in his life, one where he could step out from behind the veil of his fears. "All right," Jake said, his heart pounding as he turned to the group. "What do we want to accomplish?" The question hung in the air, as heavy as the warm breeze curling through the pines. "Let us give these kids something they'll remember," Novak suggested. "Maybe a community event where they can learn about teamwork, resilience, and courage. We could share our experiences, what it really means to fight and be brave." Rios chimed in, "And maybe challenge old perceptions. They need to see that strength doesn't look the same for everyone." His words ignited something within Jake, a warmth that spread through him, planting the seeds of a common purpose. Each member began to pitch in ideas, illustrating them with memories from their own lives. Jake listened intently, witnessing a dance of energy exchange, these men and women, hardened by the battlefield, showing vulnerability in discussing their pasts. He felt their strength but also their humanity, a contrast that took him by surprise. "What if we did challenges?" Jake suggested tentatively. "Obstacle courses, but with twists. Kids paired up with seals to face tasks that require both physical strength and creativity. It could showcase what it means to work together," Novak affirmed. "A balance of brawn and brain. I love it." As the group brainstormed, laughter began to break through the seriousness. There was a palpable sense of camaraderie forming, an intricate web of shared stories weaving them together. The onlookers continued to watch, their faces reflecting admiration and a touch of hope, yet, while the excitement bubbled over, Jake could still feel the weight of his past standing in the background, a specter that haunted him. Would they truly accept him? Would he allow himself to be seen as more than just a man in a wheelchair, but as a leader? The questions gnawed at him. It wasn't just about his connection with the SEALs, it was about how he viewed himself. For a long time, he had hidden behind his own doubts, convinced that his disabilities defined him. But now, surrounded by these warriors, a flicker of belief began to blossom. As dusk draped the park in its cool embrace, Jake felt a gentle push from within. This wasn't just about Unity Day anymore. It was about carving out a space where he belonged, where everyone belonged. There would be challenges ahead. They'd need to strategize, communicate, and, most importantly, confront their fears together. And just as the first stars began to blink against the darkening sky, a catastrophic crack echoed through the park. A nearby tree, weakened and rotting, splintered and crashed to the ground, sending everyone into a startled frenzy. Jake's heart raced, panic rising as he searched for the children. Where were they? In that glare of uncertainty and urgency, everything they had discussed felt suddenly vulnerable. Could they truly come together when the unexpected struck? Would their plans for unity survive the tests to come? As chaos erupted, Jake grasped his chair tightly, feeling the pulse of dread overtaking the night. The journey wasn't just beginning, it was about to plunge into something far more intense and unpredictable than he could have ever imagined. The air thickened with confusion as the crowd swelled, voices rising in panic. Jake's heart raced, each beat a thundering reminder of his own vulnerabilities. He twisted in his chair, eyes darting, searching the growing chaos for the familiar bright t-shirts of the children. The laughter and excitement from moments earlier turned to cries and shouts. "Everyone, stay calm," Novak called out, his voice cutting through the noise like a beacon. "Get the kids to gather in the center. We need to make sure they're safe." Jake's hands clenched the wheels of his chair. With the sudden rush of fear, he felt the old weight of doubt creeping back in. Would he freeze at this moment? Would he let fear snatch away his chance to lead? But just as he was about to succumb to those fears, he caught sight of a group of children huddled near the fountain, eyes wide with fright. They were waiting to be told what to do. Their trust anchored deep within him. Jake pushed aside the darkness that threatened to envelop him and called out, "Kids! Over here! Gather around me!" The children looked to him, still shaken, but one by one they started to break free from their frozen stances. With every little face that turned his way, Jake felt a surge of purpose. He focused on them, determined to show that strength wasn't just physical. It was also about calm in the storm, about being the first to step forward even when times were tough. "Let us stick together," he shouted, and the message spread like wildfire. The kids moved toward him, their small hands clutching one another. The SEALs began to form protective barriers around the children, their solid frames putting up a fortress against any further danger. With the calamity redirecting some of the adults' panic into action, Jake felt the resolve in his core. "I know this is scary," he continued, gently lowering his voice to encourage them. "But we're not alone. Look at all the amazing people around us. Together, we can get through this." Novak shifted through the crowd, murmuring reassurances and assigning a couple of SEALs to keep watch for any more falling debris. Rios joined Jake at his side, his fierce gaze scanning the area, ready for anything. Together, they projected calm. The children, now encircled by both SEALs and their new makeshift leader, began to relax. A few even stepped closer, eager to feel safe again. Jake could see their eyes softening, and it filled him with unexpected warmth. "Does anyone know what a teamwork challenge is?" Jake asked, trying to shift the tone. "We're about to show the world how strong we truly are." A little girl in the front raised her hand, her voice trembling but determined. "We have to stick together, right?" "Exactly." Jake grinned. "And right now, sticking together keeps us safe." The laughter began to trickle back, lightly at first, but it grew warmer as they responded to his infectious optimism. They were still rattled, but they were no longer trapped in fear. The moment stretched between them, echoing with something deeper than the panic that had just surged through the park, a sense of community, of unity in the face of adversity. Just when the atmosphere felt stable again, Jake turned towards the fallen tree. He caught Novak's eye, and they shared a brief glance that said more than words could. This was bigger than just them. Let's not let this break us, Jake declared. Let this be the spark we needed to show that strength comes in many forms. As the group cheered, uplifted by his words, a murmur of agreement cascaded through the young faces. For the first time, Jake didn't just feel like a spectator in his own life, he felt like a driving force, but as the kids began to relax, a low murmur echoed through the crowd. Rumors of storms rolling in began to circulate. Jake's heart sank again, thoughts of rain and more chaos flooding his mind. This was just the beginning, wasn't it? The real journey was still ahead. Hold on, everyone. He shouted above the whispers, anxiety blooming within. We're just getting started, and with that, he could almost feel the ground shifting beneath them, a promise of challenges yet to come. What lay ahead could either unite them further or shatter their fragile bonds. Either way, Jake knew they had to be ready. Would they find resilience together, or would fear pull them apart? Jake's pulse raced as uncertainty gripped him once more. The winds began to pick up, whipping through the trees and sending a shiver down his spine. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, electric with fear. Just as he began to doubt himself again, a spirited boy named Tommy ran up to him, his face flushed. Jake! What's happening? Tommy's eyes were wide, searching for clarity. Before Jake could respond, the sound of a distant rumble echoed overhead. It wasn't just thunder, it felt like a warning. He took a deep breath, taking in the fear etched on the faces around him. The soft breeze that once felt refreshing now carried a potent sense of urgency. Listen up, everyone. He called, projecting his voice with all the strength he could muster. I know we're scared, but we're not going to let that stop us. We need everyone to stay close. Move together and keep talking to each other. The kids shifted into a tighter formation. Adult volunteers, who had rallied around the seals, began to step forward, echoing Jake's resolve, their voices blending into a comforting wall of sound. Jake felt the power of unity surging around him. Can we make a group cheer? Jake suggested, feeling a spark of inspiration. Something like We Are Brave. The children, emboldened by their leader's spirit, joined in, shouting We Are Brave. With rising confidence. The adults soon chimed in, creating a collective roar of defiance against the fear creeping like shadows. Let us say it again. Jake encouraged, excitement flickering within him. Louder this time. They repeated it, their voices echoing against the bustling park, creating an undeniable energy. Laughter mixed with shouts, forming a chorus of resilience that blended beautifully with the nervous reality surrounding them. From where Jake sat, the atmosphere shifted. Just as hope ignited, Novak appeared again, urgency painting his features. Jake! We've got to move this group to the pavilion, the trees are swaying too much. Jake nodded and turned back to the children. Okay, team. It's time to move. I need you all to hold hands so we don't get separated. As he organized them, he felt every heart hammering beside him. Kalia, a girl with pigtails, squeezed his hand tightly. I'm scared, Jake. I know, Kalia, he replied softly. But we're going to be okay. Together, we're stronger than anything that comes our way. Can you feel that? She nodded slowly, her bright blue eyes flickering with a mix of fear and determination. One by one, they began to shuffle towards the pavilion, the ground beneath them anxiously rocking with the brewing storm. The seals formed a protective wall ahead and behind them, creating a sanctuary through the chaos. Jake's heart raced with both fear and exhilaration. He'd never felt this kind of connection, this fire to protect those in need. The children around him held more strength than he ever imagined possible. Together they were dealing with something far beyond just storms or panic. They were facing their own vulnerabilities, rising to meet a challenge, but just as they neared the pavilion, another gust of wind howled through the park, and a cracking sound echoed nearby. Everything felt suspended in time as they reached the entrance. Jake spun around, eyes wide, holding a breath that felt heavy. The crowd's laughter faded, replaced by a chilling stillness. What was that? Someone whispered from behind him, the previous courage melting away with the uncertainty of what they might face now. Jake took one last look at the young faces surrounding him, each radiating a flicker of hope, and felt an overwhelming rush of purpose. This wasn't just about them anymore. It was about a choice that could redefine everything. "We're going to keep going," he declared, voice breaking above the ominous silence. "No matter what happens, we will face it together." Just then, the ground trembled more forcefully, a formidable reminder that this day was far from over. But Jake, filled with resolve, recognized that within this trial lay the heart of something transformative. Would they find their way through the storm, or would the chaos tear them apart at the seams? The air felt charged, thickening with tension as the ground continued to shake beneath them. Each tremor sent ripples of anxiety through the group. Jake squeezed Kalia's hand tighter, grounding himself in her presence. She was tiny but fierce, a reflection of the strength swirling among them, a mix of fear and hope. "Stay close, everyone," Jake said again, trying to maintain a calm that he didn't completely feel. He studied the pavilion ahead. The safety it represented became a magnet pulling him and the children forward. Yet, shadows stretched across the grass as the storm grew closer, threatening to swallow the fragile cheer they had built. "Jake, what if we can't make it?" Tommy's voice broke through the fear, raw with uncertainty. In that moment, Jake turned to face the boy. "We're going to make it. I promise. Look around. We have each other. Look at our team." Tommy glanced at their grouping. They were still holding on, a line of small hand-in-hand warriors facing a great unknown. "Just keep moving, one step at a time," Jake encouraged, matching each word with squeezing hands and bright, reassuring smiles. They pressed onward, but another mighty gust swept through, lifting leaves in a wild dance. The trees seemed more than just angry, they appeared to be protesting against the approaching storm. Off in the distance, a nearby tree crashed to the ground, splintering the silence, punctuating the weight of uncertainty that draped over them. "Everyone, keep moving," a seal shouted, clapping his hands as if to create a pathway forward amidst the chaos. Jake relayed the command, urging the children ahead. The adults flanked the group, ready to act if anything went wrong. Their spirits surged with the remnants of their earlier cheer, buoyed by a bubbling belief in one another. Yet, just as they passed through the entrance of the pavilion, the ground shook with renewed vigor. Jake felt his heart quicken. Panic threatened to seep back in, but he tightened his jaw and pressed on, leading the kids inside, where the air was cooler and the heaviness outside less tangible. Once inside, they stumbled into a sprawling space filled with tables and chairs that created multiple paths like an arena. There was a strange comfort in the familiar surroundings. The seals moved swiftly to barricade the doors, keeping a vigilant watch over the group while communicating with one another in quick, clipped sentences. The children sat, their wide eyes scanning the pavilion, uncertainty still swirling but caught within the echo of their earlier cheer. Jake remembered Kalia's grip on his hand and felt a surge of responsibility. "All right, listen up," he said, raising his voice above the hum of conversations. "We're not out of this yet. But we're going to be okay. You all just showed how brave you are. We have each other, and together we can face anything that comes our way." Some brave souls ventured to speak, sharing nervous laughter despite the growing wind rattling the building. "We're brave," echoed back from the corner of the room, and it lit a flame in Jake's chest. Suddenly, the lights flickered, a harsh reminder that they weren't completely sheltered from whatever lurked outside. Jake felt a knot in his stomach. The world was still racing, still in turmoil. What do we do if the lights go out? A girl's quiet voice piped up from the group. As everyone turned to him, Jake felt their trust pressing on his shoulders. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. He took a deep breath, searching for the right words. We stick together. We help one another and make sure no one feels alone. Fear is scary, but together it becomes a little lighter. The tension began to dissolve in the room with his words, glimmering with hope as they began to talk among themselves, lifting one another's spirits with stories and what they loved most about life. But just then, the doors rattled with a force that sent a shiver down everyone's spine. The SEALs turned sharply, weapons drawn, fear etched on their faces. Taking a step forward, Jake's heart thundered, pounding wildly against his rib cage. What could be out there? What darkness lay beyond their fragile sanctuary? Stay calm, stay together, he urged, feeling every heartbeat as an echo of bravery. Would their unity hold strong against whatever storm approached them, or would fear break their resolve? The rattling at the doors grew louder, like a monster trying to break through. The SEALs moved in sync, bodies tense, eyes scanning every shadow. It was as if time slowed, every heartbeat rang loud in Jake's ears. He glanced at the children. Their faces reflected his own fear and courage. They were looking to him, waiting for a signal, for hope among the chaos. Jake, Kalia whispered, her voice shaky, "What's happening?" He knelt down, bringing himself face to face with her. "I don't know yet, but we're safe inside. Remember what we talked about? Together." He felt her small hand tremble within his. Steeling himself, he squeezed reassuringly. Outside, the wind roared like a wild beast, and the doors shuddered with each crashing wave of air. The fear ignited a primal instinct deep within Jake. He straightened up, eyes searching for the SEAL leader. "What's the situation?" he asked, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. "We can't hold this position for long if it gets worse. We may need to be prepared to move," the SEAL replied, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "Move where?" another one of the SEALs exclaimed, pacing like a caged animal. "Out there. We'll be sitting ducks." The fear was palpable, and Jake could feel it spreading among the group around him. He couldn't let that happen. Summoning his hidden reserves of strength, Jake stepped forward, drawing every pair of eyes in the room. "Listen to me. We've come this far. We are brave, we are strong, and we'll fight for one another. No decision will be made in fear. If we move, we do it together." A nod of determination spread through the children as adults exchanged glances, some questioning, others resolute. Just then, another immense thud hit the pavilion doors. Dust rained down from the rafters, and Kalia clung tighter to Jake. He felt this fire inside him ignite. Every ounce of reassurance, every cheerful moment they shared, he summoned back to life. "They are trying to intimidate us. I believe in every one of you. Remember our teamwork? Remember the joy? We won't let fear steal that away. We fight for each other." The tension shifted slightly, he could see it in their eyes. It was infectious. Suddenly, someone shouted from the group, "What if we climb through the windows and escape on the other side? It could be quieter out there." A murmur of agreement rippled through the group, and Jake saw a glimmer of courage spark. He had always believed that hope could rise from despair, and here it was, alive in this very moment. "Okay, that's a plan. But we must do it as a unit. We'll create a distraction to keep attention away from our exit. We are not running away, we are moving together to a new safe space." Jake organized his thoughts, rallying the gathered souls. He pointed to their bravest, "You, Tommy, and you, Kalia. Help me lead our way to the windows." Incredibly, the fear-hardened voices transformed into spirited chants of agreement. But then, the unthinkable happened. A loud, bone-jarring crash filled the air, and the door splintered open. What emerged could be the very nightmare they feared. Jake's heart stopped, a moment suspended in fear, waiting for the storm to unleash its fury. Every instinct screamed for action, for safety. With a single glance at Kalia, he understood one thing: whatever came next, they needed each other now more than ever. What would arise from this looming darkness? Would they find their escape or a new challenge that would test their resolve? The door flew open with a force that sent a shudder through the entire pavilion. Jake squinted into the chaotic scene unfolding before him. A figure towered in the doorway, backlit by the swirling dust and debris outside. It was a silhouette of muscle and menace, and for a heartbeat, he thought it might be a cruel joke that fate had played on him. "Stand down!" barked one of the seals, his voice sharp like a whip crack. But the command fell silent amid the gasps of the children. Jake's heart raced, and he instinctively pulled Kalia closer, ready to shield her from whatever horror stood just beyond their fragile sanctuary. "Is that?" someone stuttered, their voice trembling. As the figure stepped into the light, Jake's breath caught in his throat. It was a massive man, clad in tactical gear, scars tracing his face like road maps of battles fought. But behind that intimidating exterior were the bright eyes of a friend, Marcus, a former Marine who had always been larger than life. "Jake! We need to move!" Marcus shouted, urgency painting his tone. There was panic in his eyes. "They're coming." Jake's mind raced. "What do you mean, Marcus? What's out there?" He managed to keep his voice steady, drawing strength from the others gathered at his side. They needed answers and a leader who could step up. "Mutant gangs," Marcus said, hurriedly glancing around at the frightened children. "They're getting organized. They hit the outskirts hard, and they're headed toward here. We can't hold this position. Trust me, it's a choice between fighting or running." The weight of those words sunk into Jake's chest. With each passing second, the emotional stakes climbed higher. He could see the trepidation on the seals' faces as they exchanged frantic glances. Jake's instinct stirred. This was not just about survival anymore, it was about fighting for their lives, for hope, for each other. "Marcus, we can't just leave," he said, finding his voice amidst the encroaching dread. "We have kids here. We have to protect them." "I get that," Marcus replied, squaring his shoulders. "But we're outnumbered. I came here to warn you. If we stay much longer, we'll be trapped." A moment of silence enveloped them, and Jake felt a deep conflict rise within him. The idea of fleeing, of abandoning their brave stand, felt like a knife twist in his gut. But as he glanced near him, he saw Tommy squeezing Kalia's hand, trying to be her shield. A gut-wrenching realization struck him: they were all depending on him to lead them toward safety, no matter how daunting the journey would be. "All right, everybody," he shouted, rallying the children's spirit. "We regroup at the windows. Ready yourselves for distraction. Marcus, can you help us lead out?" "Yes, I'll get them moving," he nodded, determination etched on his features. The fear shifted, replaced by a flicker of trust and resolve. "On three," Jake called, heart hammering. 1, 2, 3. The children responded, echoing his energy as they rushed toward the windows, moved by the urgency of their situation. He felt the adrenaline surge through him. Each child counted on him, each seal sensed his resolve. They were moving together. Suddenly, the rumbling noise from outside got louder. Time was slipping away. He turned to Marcus, who was already strategizing. "We'll go through the back alley, it's our best shot. Keep tight, and stay low." The plan formed before Jake could second-guess itself, igniting a fire of purpose within him. But just as they began to squeeze through the windows, a horrid scream echoed from outside, and it wasn't just chaos anymore. It was the manifestation of terror they tried to outrun. "Move, now!" Marcus shouted, urgency layering his tone. As they climbed through the broken glass and into the unknown, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of their fight against whatever nightmare awaited outside. He turned for one last look at the pavilion, a place that had protected them until now, and wondered what horrors awaited them in the darkness beyond. Would they find salvation or face their greatest fears? With those thoughts racing through his mind, he jumped into the night, heart pounding, ready to face whatever awaited them. The damp air hit Jake like a cold slap as he landed on the ground outside the pavilion. The chill wrapped around him, mingling with the increasing roar of chaos. Fear flared in his chest, but adrenaline quickly took over. He could see their path, a narrow alleyway, littered with debris. Was it possible to make it to safety? Stay close, Jake yelled, motioning for the children to keep tight to him. He spotted Kalia, her wide eyes mirroring his fear. He offered her a reassuring nod, though he could feel the weight of doubts creeping in, turning his resolve into a volatile mix of worry and determination. Behind him, he heard Marcus barking orders, guiding the seals as they formed a protective line. The noise escalated, a cacophony of shouts and guttural sounds, making it clear that danger was rapidly approaching. As they crept into the shadows of the alley, Jake caught glimpses of the mutated figures breaching the periphery, their forms twisted and grotesque. His heart raced, the sight of them igniting a primal fear deep within him. Yet he steeled himself, reminding himself of the children he must protect. Somewhere, a distant explosion rocked the ground, causing dust to swirl and fill the air with an acrid taste. The kids flinched at the sound, and Jake turned to see Tommy trying to comfort Kalia, whispering something to her. "Just focus on getting out," Jake encouraged, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Breathe, just breathe." They rounded a corner, and Jake came to a halt, his heart sinking. Ahead, the alley split. One path led into a narrow street lined with abandoned cars, the other dipped into a deep darkness that seemed to swallow sound. Marcus joined him, scanning the options. "That way leads to the street. We might have a better chance with vehicles around us." He pointed, but Jake felt a prick of doubt. The wider street could also lead to more visibility, more danger. "Who's behind us?" Jake asked, glancing back. He needed to assess their position, to gauge how fast the shadows were closing in. "Not far," Marcus said, panic edging his voice. "We need to decide now." Jake took a deep breath, forced himself to think this decision was critical. His heart ached as he thought of the children, but if they went back, they'd likely face the worst. "We take the narrow route," he said firmly. "It'll be tighter, harder for them to follow. We can hold them off better that way." "Not everyone can fit." Marcus raised his voice, an edge of frustration hiding his concern. "And we can't leave anyone behind." Jake's determination hardened. "We won't leave anyone, Marcus. The kids must come first." He looked at the frightened faces surrounding him. "We move fast and protect each other. It's our only shot." A moment of silence hung between them like a heavy cloud before Marcus nodded, respecting Jake's resolve. "Okay, let us do this," he said. They split into two groups, old warriors guiding the young ones while Jake remained at the front, leading them toward the darkness. The alley narrowed even further, and Jake caught glimpses of looming figures ahead. He could almost feel their breath on his neck. "Remember, stay together and keep quiet," he whispered, urging them forward. Just as they pushed further into the shadows, a loud crash shattered the tension. The ground shook, nearly throwing them off balance. "What was that?" a child murmured, fear palpable in the small voice. "Just keep moving," Jake urged, his voice low and steady. Yet inside, minute by minute, his resolve began to crack. Was this smart? Or had he just led them to a trap? They reached a dead end, thick darkness swallowing them whole just as the sounds of chaos echoed closer. No escape, no way out. What could happen if they were discovered here? Time stretched painfully. Just when Jake thought they were cornered, a sliver of light caught his eye, an old service door, rusty yet slightly ajar. "Over there!" he shouted, pointing. They rushed to it, but as they got closer, he felt fear gnawing at him again. Would it open? A sudden thud behind them made the answer clear. They had to act fast. As they pushed through, Jake felt a surge of hope. "We're gonna make it." He shouted to the kids, their bright faces shining in the dim light. But as they squeezed inside, a chilling voice called out from behind, "Going somewhere?" Jake's heart dropped. They were not alone. What awaited them in this new darkness? The menacing figure stepped into the light, and Jake's breath caught in his throat. It was one of the mutant gang members, towering and twisted, with a wicked smile that sent chills straight down his spine. The fear gripping the children was palpable, their small bodies tensing beside him. "Looks like we found ourselves a little party," the figure taunted, sneering as the shadows danced around him. In that split second, Jake felt the crushing weight of responsibility. The children were counting on him to protect them. It was no longer just about survival, it was about hope, about believing in something bigger than fear. With a determined roar, he stepped forward, heart racing. "Back off!" he shouted, channeling every ounce of courage he had left. "We're not afraid of you." The gang member laughed, the sound hollow and menacing. "You think you can stand against me?" He advanced, the shadows wrapping tighter around him like an invitation to chaos, but Jake wasn't backing down. He could feel the tension radiating from his impromptu team: Tommy, Kalia, and the others, holding their breath. He turned back, locking eyes with Marcus and the SEALs. "Now!" he bellowed, knowing this was a moment for action, not fear. Without hesitation, the SEALs surged forward, positioning themselves to block any path the mutant could take. "We'll protect the kids," Novak bellowed, taking point and crouching low like a warrior prepared for battle. Jake gripped Kalia's hand tighter, their connection forged in trust. "This isn't the end. Whatever happens, we stick together," he whispered to her, hoping to encase her in comfort against the raging storm outside. "All of you, stay back," Marcus yelled as the SEALs rushed to form a defensive line. His voice was a shield, wrapping around the children, making them feel a little safer. "We're professionals, we can handle this." With the SEALs engaged, Jake kept an eye on the children, who pressed against him, their expressions a mix of fear and awe. "Listen up," he shouted. "This is our moment. Heroes come in many forms. It's time to show what we're made of." Tommy's small voice piped up, "We're brave." The children echoed it back, a chorus of defiance in the face of overwhelming dread. The mutant's grin faltered slightly, confused by this unexpected show of unity. Snarling, it lunged at the SEALs, who quickly responded with controlled movements, blocking and dodging, the sound of their struggles drowning out everything else. Jake could feel the urgency building within him, the pressure to ensure everyone was safe. "I need you all to focus on me," he directed the kids, pulling them closer to his side. "We've made it through so much together, now we fight for our future." With a quick glance towards the action, Jake saw the SEALs staying strong, their training kicking in. But as the fight continued, he could sense the tide of fear rising, chaos swirled around them. Jake pushed his anxiety aside and steeled himself, knowing that this was precisely the moment they had talked about, a moment to be brave, not just in spirit but in action. "Follow my lead," he shouted, a spark igniting in his chest. "We're going to outsmart them. Kids, I need you to be ready." As the SEALs engaged, Jake spotted an opening behind the mutants. "Now!" he called, his voice cutting through the noise. "Every adult with kids, go to the side door. Don't wait." With instinct kicking in, the children around him followed suit, rushing for safety as he guided them towards an escape route. Kalia still held on tight, her tiny hand squeezing his. Jake glanced back at the SEALs fighting valiantly, each moment surged with painful urgency. They couldn't stay idle, each second felt like a pulse pounding against his heart. "Keep moving," he urged, pushing Kalia and the others forward. This was at the culmination of every hardship, every fear compounded into a single rush of adrenaline-driven purpose. They made their way toward the door, and just as they reached it, a deafening crash sounded behind them. A surge of dread rippled through Jake, but he didn't allow it to overshadow his resolve. He ushered the kids outside, urging them to sprint toward the safety of the street. He turned one last time as the last of the seals battled with the monster, now caught up in a fierce struggle. "Go!" Novak yelled, giving Jake and the children the opening they needed to escape. Jake felt a sense of fire flowing through him, stronger than the fear that had threatened to claim this day. "We've done this together, our courage is stronger than anything that tries to tear us apart," he shouted, encouraging every child to believe. With one swift motion, Jake propelled himself forward, finding the strength he didn't know was there. They rushed into the night, the sounds of chaos fading behind them. The storm that once loomed now felt distant, overshadowed by the light sparking within every one of them. Together they would find safety, together they would heal, and together they would rise victorious. Jake's heart swelled as he led them forward into the unknown, united against the storm, proving that heroism comes in countless forms. They would make it through this, brighter than before, a community transformed, a future forged in courage and faith. As they ran, the air crackled with defiance, echoing the truth that would never fade: when faced with darkness, light will always emerge. Remember to support this channel by subscribing immediately, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire transformation. Don't let this moment pass you by. Leave a like now to help feed the algorithm, and comment your reactions and feelings about the extraordinary ending. Share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful journey. You need to show your support because only true fans understand the importance of these actions. Don't wait not even 1 second.